All right, Mr. C, your letter made my day. And I'll go back through it and write back to you in the form of a YouTube blog. Listening to your memories is like taking a stroll down the memory lane of fascinating life. That's gotta go on the book journal. That's gotta go on the cover or on the back or somewhere. But that's an outstanding quote. And yes, unfortunately, I have gone with sodas too. And you got to remember, your sodas have caffeine in them as well, and nicotine, but only while I work. I don't smoke when I'm not working. So interesting to hear during your blogs. It ended up from 9 a.m. till midnight on deadline days. As I say, you only went with a lot of colas. Good for you. And memory for you, family, and serious acquaintances. Yeah. The order that I'm going to do it in is in chronological order. I have memories back to 2 years old. And yes, I definitely want to lure or seduce readers who don't know me as a complete stranger. Casual acquaintances, I recommend you start with the most interesting, informative, or emotional stories. Absolutely. Unfortunately or unfortunately, I had a lot of those from age 2 to age 4 until things finally settled down for me. I don't know if you knew this, but Mike was in the Navy for 2 years, so we were in Annapolis, Maryland. For 2 years, my first 2 years, even though I was born in Cleveland, as Mike was finishing off his residency, I did live for a year and a half in Annapolis, Maryland. Having to put it on the website for free, absolutely. I'm going to do anything. I'm not expecting to be a best-selling writer, but I do have a few insights and lots of interesting experiences. Excuse me, there's the soda right there. Finding the Dead Body would be an outstanding addition from July 87. How it impacted my morality or my mortality. Probably impacted both. But that would be an interesting, you could write 30 words, 30 pages on that alone. Surviving the canoe accident, again, excellent. And I will include all of our canoe trips down to Cuyahoga, including the west branch of the river there that we went against stream all the way to Pearl Road as people cheered us on, drinking beers from the cliff above us, and also our trips starting out in Muskegum and going down that river and going to that incredible banquet and not being able to eat because I had my shirt off and my hat off the entire time. Never again. Yeah, Jimmy Cowan. I'll never forget sitting in that bathtub with a little tiny shriveled penis trying to get warm slowly and then almost running you over. Maybe Wanda's comment was right. When are you going to grow up? Well, fortunately, we've both had to grow up. I've heard people say that until you lose your parents, you're never really an adult, and we've both experienced that, and so I guess we've grown up. The rescue operation while the siblings sat on a lawn chair, yeah, classic, absolutely classic. Readers learning big, impactful events such as semester at sea, crawling into a fetal position after eating spoiled. You really went through those videos. Thank you. I appreciate it. No one's even looked at those. And I started out with the idea of memoirs. If I could get like 100 really good stories to tell, then I would have the basis. And that's basically what I did, 50 to 100 stories, like the ones that I sent to you. And I'll continue to do that until I have a good foundation for the memoir itself. American College Concentration Camp, yeah, that was awful. That was awful. Trying to please God through scrupulosity and become something I was never intended to become. I was intended to become a writer, a comic, blogger, all of these things. And jamming on the tennis courts with Louis Russell, absolutely. The bath ride with the angel. I really believe that woman was an angel. That was the best water I think we've ever had. And that's a great story itself. And Mike, again, you could write a whole novel on Mike alone and his bizarre behavior starting at age 50 when his secretary, his then secretary, wrote him a long, romantic, seducing letter, which my sisters never got over for the first 3 or 4 years. And they couldn't fathom a woman doing that to a man who had 6 children. Absolutely despicable. She went on to become the gold digger that we all predicted. She prevented Mike from going to her work party because, quote unquote, he was too old. Well, he wasn't too old to take his fucking money. Half of his money, $1 million at that, driving an $80,000 sports car. They called it the Austin, the one comic guy who made all those movies. Who's that, honey? The guy who made the comic movies of pop culture in London? Mike Myers. Mike Myers movie, yeah. Listening, yeah, literally 3 hours a night I listened to Lois for months. And she complained about her husband while she herself had done worse things in adultery. But that's not for me or you to judge. You know, it's not for you or me to judge. So, but that could be included. I plan to do a memoir rather than a novel. I always concentrate so much more on memoirs, just knowing that they're truth, rather than going through and writing a book and just changing the names and having it be the exact same thing. I think it's foolish. It's going to require a lot of investigation and going back to various sites to get the feeling as I write and blog my way through this memoir. Toe-to-toe with arms folded against Grandpa Luther. I still have that photo and have looked at it several times at 11,000 feet. The acquisitions from a demented elderly man. Yeah, it was painful for me to experience, but I'm so glad I stood up to him because I had basically cut him off from then on after the kind of abuse that he was more than willing to lavish on me. What else have you said here? Oh, the painful suffering process that could have been eased with ganja, but not allowed by do-gooders. Yeah, I do remember specifically at Bill Weston's sister's wedding going out and smoking a J with you and other guys in a circle outside the wedding party. Humiliation of father's affairs. Yeah, the financial thing was the hardest. I was in government housing. She was driving an $80,000 car. I was in government housing, and she was being built, a mansion was being built on a lake for her. Insane. My mom's will specifically said if any of her children were impaired, and 2 states, the state of Ohio and the state of Michigan, said I was impaired, and that was that. It was just a horrible thing. Now these are some good topics that could be woven into various chapters of a memoir to spark interest in amongst strangers. I really welcome your advice as my editor. And I appreciate it for all it's worth. It's come full circle. You're teaching me how to write now. And I remember sitting in the Dunkin' Donuts and working on a piece about that congressman and the congresswoman both. Points to ponder. Do your stories or theme or family or friends, travel, spirituality, they're all on the docket. But I do intend to do it chronologically because I just think it's easier. I don't have the skill really to do it any other way. I'm not going to go into Mike and Wanda's deep history. You know, obviously Luther was a part of that, and Grandma Annie for Mike growing up is a part of who I became, both genetically and as a human, spiritually. Um, yeah, I do have thousands of stories to tell, and it's daunting in one sense, but in another sense, it's extremely rewarding just to even think about it. So, I will be writing in the first person narrative. Um, Tone that I will use will be humorous, hopefully insightful, and I'm going to leave the resentfulness in the thousand poems that I've written. I've gotten over that, the lyrics, the rap. I've gotten over that. I've moved on. I'm a different person. And of course, some rage will have to be included, but the basic narrative theme will be first person humorous. Um, I hope it's a page turner. Yeah, I hope there's some climaxes, some questions that'll keep a reader to the end. And the central message that I want to readers to take away from the memoir will be persistence. I could have died in the hospital 2 years ago while Matt casually said, oh, they just had to readjust the pick that was going into your pick line going into your heart. That was his response to me going into a code, suddenly having 10 people trying to resuscitate me before I died. So that's it. Thanks so much for your insightful letter, and I look forward to talking to you soon. Bye. Sorry about that. I didn't stop.